Welcome dudes and dudettes. In this guide I'll show you the process I've learned from trial and error to make a simple retexture using Blender and GIMP. When I started modding Unreal Engine games, I had a very hard time of finding any complete beginner guides to the free to use programs that are being used to make the vast majority of the mods we see today. As I still consider myself a noob, making a guide for something as complex as 3D modeling and texture work seemed naive. But as I keep getting questions from other complete beginners that are as lost and confused as I was when I started my modding career, I figured it was about time to make a guide that shows you how to start out completely from scratch. Blender and GIMP are amazing programs, but especially Blender is a massive beast to try and tame if you have no prior experience working with 3D programs. Even trying to find a simple guide, I had no clue what I even had to search for when I started out, as Blender can do so many things. My breakthrough came when I started to ignore most of the stuff Blender can do and just focused on what I actually need. So this guide is just that. We'll focus only on the few things we need to actually create something we can use in-game, and then you'll have a solid foundation to build on afterwards. We'll be making a retexture of the cigarette pack in Into the Radius 1. But most of this process is the same even if you're making something for another Unreal Engine game. I've used these techniques to make mods for Into the Radius 1 and 2, Survive and Stalker 2. All games that use different versions of the Unreal Engine, but the process behind making those mods are basically the same. I feel I have to emphasize that most of what I'm about to show you might not be the correct or easiest way of doing these things. But it works for me, and it'll work for any other beginner as well. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's make some cool shit. The first thing we're gonna do is to download Blender. So you go into Blender and you just download the latest version. And once you have that, you're going to go into GIMP and download the latest version there. Then the last thing we need is the Unreal PSK/PSA add-on. So you go there and you just press get add-on. So once you've gotten that, download links in the description, you're gonna get this screen. So just click somewhere other than the startup screen. You have this nice cube, and we are gonna follow most guides and just delete it for now. The first thing you need to do is you go into edit, preferences, and you go into add-ons, you pick install from disk, and then you just find the add-on you just installed. It'll show up in the menu and you can just turn it on. Once you enable the add-on, you go into this section right here. It's probably going to be on this box. You press the scene properties button over here. You go into units, you take length and put that into centimeters. And then we're going to put the unit scale at 0.01. That is because the Unreal models for some reason are scaled up to 1,000 times bigger than what Blender reads. So if you do this in the beginning, you're going to have the models that are in the correct size. That is going to help you once and if you try to make, or when you begin to make custom models. Otherwise, you're gonna import them and get some weird results. So once you've done that, you go into export. You're gonna have the option to import Unreal PSK files, which is the one we need. So you're gonna locate the model file you just exported using fmodel, which I covered in my previous guide video. We are gonna find this, the cigarette box PSKX. That is the file we need. Just ignore all of this stuff because that's what I normally do. So yeah, you just locate the file, you press import. This is just the mesh for the model itself. You are gonna go up into the shading tab and we're gonna get this scene. To actually make this look like something, we're gonna select it and you can see it selected now. This one up here is the light. And this is the camera. We do not need to concern ourselves with those, so just ignore those. You can also delete them if you want, but this is what we're interested in. Now, the most important shortcut for what we're gonna do is gonna be Shift A. So you move your mouse down here to the note section. I don't know what it's called. And you press Shift A, you press search, and then you can search for whatever. It's already there because I use it all the time. This is by far the easiest method of putting in the notes you need. You can also do it the conventional way, but that takes a long time and a long thing. It doesn't matter. We're gonna type image, and we get an image texture. And you put that in, and in this image texture, we're gonna press open, and then we are gonna locate. Oh yeah, and the reason for there, you are gonna use that a lot. It is precious, so you don't have to dig through all of the folders to go into where the textures are. They're usually in a folder very close to the model folder. In this case, it's exactly the same, so that's perfect. This is the one we need, so we press open image on the texture. Oh, yeah. That's the thing about nodes, you need to connect them. In this case, we're gonna press the color tab here, and you see we drag this thingy out, we put it in the base color over here. Ooh, that's nice. Now it's starting to look like something. The thing I do here is I separate the texture itself into different layers so I can manipulate them and change them and do whatever I want with the textures. So now we can see this works, the texture's on, it's perfect. Okay, we're gonna go up here into layout, and oh shit, it looks the same as before. Where's the well, do not don't be afraid, it's up here. These are the viewer settings. So if you press any of the other ones, this is the model itself, and we have the wireframe or whatever the fuck it's called. We prefer this one because I actually want to see what I'm working on. In this case, the texture. This one, show overlays, is also very nice if you want to remove all the outlines and the other stuff. To actually do something here, the easiest thing I've found is if you go up into this corner here, you see the cursor changes into the I don't know, crosshair, if you will. And if you press and drag, you get this. So now we opened up another screen. That's pretty. You click this icon right here, the editor type, and then we go into the UV editor. And if you press here, the browse image to be linked. Ooh, we have the T-cigarette PNG. That is nice. Use the mouse wheel to scroll out a bit, and we see the entire texture. Okay, you might be thinking that there's a lot of stuff going on here that isn't on the model itself. What's going on? Well, in this case, to save resources and file size and everything else, they've mashed a lot of different things together in a single texture. So this contains the cigarette pack, it contains the cigarette itself, there's even a bit of tobacco here, and these are matches, if I'm not mistaken, which are not even in the game, but at some point they might have wanted them to. I mean, it looks confusing, but you'll get used to it. One thing of note here is all of this blurry stuff. It doesn't do anything really. This is just filler because you're taking a 3D image, so to speak, and making it 2D. And you cannot make it completely flat. You're always gonna, most of the time, you're gonna have holes, so to speak. So those holes are filled in with excess stuff. Honestly, the more of this there is, the easier it is to work with the texture, because then you don't have bleeding through stuff. And in this case, I want to separate the textures for a bit. So I'm gonna go up here into edit mode, shortcut tab, I can press tab to switch between object mode and edit mode, or whatever mode into edit mode. That is always the shortcut. It switches between the two. If I go into texture paint and press it again, it switches between those. Edit mode is also one you use a lot. So we see this view, we see the skeleton, so to speak, and the different sides of it, which is not that bad. We see the lid is already separated by the lines here, which is awesome. Makes it easier for us to work with. Now, to actually select those, I always press this one, select mode, face select, because that makes it easier to select the faces I actually need. So if you want to select multiple faces, you have to press and hold shift, and we can just drag and drop. And we're gonna select what we need. I want to separate this from the lid and the main body, so to speak. Now this looks fine. To rotate the view, you have to hold down middle mouse, and you can just move the mouse around. Zoom, you just use the wheel, and to actually move the scene itself, you press and hold shift to move it around on the different axes. It's a bit cumbersome to begin with, but you'll quickly get the hang of it. Anyway, I've selected what I want to separate on the texture itself. So I go into texture paint and I select the bucket tool, and now you're like, oh shit, we're gonna paint the entire, fuck, now it's black. What the, that wasn't what I wanted. Now you can see the entire segment pack is black now. Control C to undo. If you press this one, paint mask, then only the selected faces are gonna be applicable. Now, a very nice thing to do here is take a very bright color that isn't similar to anything on the model. In this case, green. There's absolutely no green on this one. So I'm gonna paint that green. Sweet. And using, just click to the side to deselect. Using the same method as before, I am gonna select the lid, and do note that this model and texture has been exported using a program that has to interpret the information stored in those files, so they aren't always complete, so to speak. That is why we have these weird triangles somewhere. In some places it can be pretty bad sometimes, but we just have to work with it. In this case, I selected something I do not want to select. There's two ways of doing it. Either you just, like the rest of it, you hold down shift and you can click it. Click the single thing to select and deselect it. Now let's say, oh shit, I fucked up. Okay, so instead of selecting with shift, I just press down control, highlight it, and it removes it. So shift adds and control removes. So we're gonna look at this. Okay, it seems like I have everything here selected I need. That's the entire lid. Same procedure as before. Oh, yeah, you can see there's some of them that aren't selected. Those are inside the box. So we can actually go in here and also do the inside box. So there's actually two layers to this one. Like before, we go into texture paint mode, and you can see you have this weird thing. That's because the layer underneath is messing up, because they're clipping too close to each other. But that doesn't matter. So we make sure the paint mask is selected, face selection, and then we paint that in another color than the one we used before. Now there's a lot of red on this one, so I don't want to use that. There's also blue, so not using that, but you use the heavy contrast colors that aren't on the model. So white wouldn't work because there's a lot of white already. We paint that, and now that is beautiful. You might be thinking, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? There's a reason behind this. So if you go over to this screen here, you see there's an asterisk by the image. If you press that, you can select Save As. That means you're gonna save the 2D texture we just painted, and that is exactly what we need. Now, we are not gonna override the other one, so I always call them WIP for work in progress. Then I know these are fuck up files, but you just call them whatever you want. Save the image, minimize Blender, and we minimize because we are gonna use that in a bit. So you see in the folder now we have the other ones. How you arrange this, I do not care. So we double click the new one. Ooh, that's beautiful. And then we are gonna drag and drop the original one into the layers. So you make sure the layers are selected. You can drag and drop as many images and pictures and whatever you want into here. This is one of the main strengths with GIMP. You can make the most obscene amount of layers. It's so awesome. Anyway, you make sure that your colored texture is selected, and these are some of the tools I use the most. This one up here is put on fuzzy select tool. You're gonna use that a lot. Let's see, if I wanted to remove the matchbox, I mean, I could just take the rectangle tool and remove that, but sometimes you have some weird shapes. It's like, how the fuck am I supposed to? Let's see, I wanted to cut this out. The fuzzy select does that pretty easily. Now, the way I do this, I just select, fuzzy select, you take the thing you want, you left click and hold. You see it gets an outline in pink, and the more you drag it up or down, the more it is going to select of that area. So we're just gonna put it into where it's perfect. I think that's there. Yeah, there you have it. You can do whatever you want with that. Now, what we need in this case, I made those some very bright colors because then I can go up here, I hold down left click, I select by color, and then when I press any of the colors here, it is gonna select all of them. This is just a simple press. I do not need to do anything else. You can see the outline on all of the pink stuff. Now, those areas are selected. It is not the colors as such that are selected now. It is those areas. This is a very important step. So I click down on the original cigarette pack texture. I'm gonna press Ctrl X for cut. Then I'm gonna go down here into create a new layer. And that was the lid, so I'm gonna call that lid. Now I made a new one. I make sure that it's selected, and I can press Ctrl V for paste. Then we have this floating selection. That is the layer itself we just cut out. So if you do like this, you can see these are the bits I've cut out. And I'm gonna press the anchor icon. Now, if we do like this, you can see I just cut out the lid portions. Easy as that. And believe me, it does sound complicated, but once you get a hang of it, this goes so freaking fast, you have no idea. So we're gonna do the same with the rest of the box. So I just select by color, I press the green ones. Now these fields are selected. I go down into original texture, I press Ctrl X, and then I'm at a new layer. I call that box, and then I'm gonna press Ctrl V, anchor it, and let's see how that looks. We have the original texture here. Now it's in 3 layers instead of only 1. I'm actually done with this now, so I can just delete that. Now you can see we have the lid separated, we have the box separated, and we have everything else on the texture. So basically these are what we need. That is perfect. And you can even then, now you separated them, you can continue working. For this example, we're just gonna do a basic retexture. I'm gonna throw in a bit of, I was about to call it advanced stuff, but it really isn't. Basically, the more you layer anything, the easier it is to work with the texture. I mean, most of the textures I've got, I'm just gonna find them to provide you with an example. Yeah, this is perfect. This is the jacket for the uniform in Into the Radius 2. And these are all the layers I've got. This one has been desaturated, which means there's no color or anything in it. It is all grayscale, so I can easier manipulate everything I want. Let's see, there's the pocket tabs, buttons, if I want to, I mean, everything, every single layer I can manipulate because I cut it up. And some of this stuff you aren't even gonna see in-game. You're never gonna notice it. I mean, let's see here, we have inside of pockets. I shit you not, this is something you can see on the model itself. Have you ever noticed that you can actually see the inside of the pocket? I mean, not all of it, but you can see a bit. You didn't. If I painted them pink, you were gonna notice, but anyway, this is how I work with it. This is how much I layer it up. And I keep this as a template file for whenever I need to make anything else. Because once you've laid it up, you can change all of this as much as you want. I mean, I could throw on camouflage uniform patterns or anything, just for the fun of it. Let's do that. And I already made some camouflage patterns. Let's use one I haven't used before. So I take this camouflage pattern, which I've prepared. And if you want to know how to do that, there are some great videos out there that shows you how to make them, because usually they're the wrong resolution or there's something else wrong with them. Anyway, I want this on, yeah, that'll be badass. Let's do that. So I am just gonna take this layer up. I am gonna put it into overlay. That is pretty. That means it is, we can control how much of it is gonna be shown. If I just took it to normal, you just have it plastered on top. You wouldn't be able to see any of the details that are actually here. I mean, if I zoom in, you can see it looks like fabric. And if I just plaster this on top, no fabric at all. That's just no. But if I take overlay, you can see the fabric. It makes it look so much better, and it is so very easy to do. I was thinking that I wanted to make these cigarette packs blue instead of red, and I want to make the gold pop a bit more, and that's it. There's no reason to go all in. This is just basic stuff, and besides, once you know how to do this, you can easily learn to do a lot of other things. So to do that, I need to separate some things. Oops. I need to separate the gold from the red, and I also need to separate the text itself. And you could select by color, for instance, to cut out the text. If it's anything high contrast, it is easy to do it like that. Like taking out the text here with filter cigarettes would be easy because it has a very high contrast. But a lot of times they blend through, and something like text is usually a lot easier to just put in new one instead of doing it yourself. And the crown is actually also very close to in color to the red one. So I want to separate the red, but if I take color select and I try to do that, you can see it bleeds through on the crown. It's very hard to do that. And if I take, let's say, fuzzy select, I could do that. And yeah, that's a bit easier. Okay. Oh, and it's starting to bleed through a lot. And you can see this is the closest I got. I mean, yeah, I could take this and layer it, take the rest of it and put that on top of that layer so I can separate everything, but that takes it takes a while. Sometimes it's a good technique to use, but a lot of times it's just more work than anything, so I'd rather make something myself. So instead I am going to use the clone tool to completely remove this stuff, and I haven't put the hardness all the way up because it is easier to control this way, I think. So that is how I do it. Now you can see we have some small patterns that are repeating. I'm just gonna remove those so they don't look all the same. Now I also want to remove the crown because we are gonna make our own. That looks very bland and boring, but that doesn't matter. This is perfect for what we need. So I'm gonna select the golden stuff. Let's just do like this so I can actually see what the fuck I'm doing. And gonna bring it in closer. That's just on the line. I'm gonna cut out this. I'm gonna call this gold line. Pop it in. Yes, perfect. And I'm gonna do the rest, do the same with the other one. So the gold line layer, you can see now there's only that line. I also want to include this one, and yeah, also this one. I can see that's also being used. This one down here, I'm gonna do the same, but I'm probably gonna replicate them. That will make it easier. It doesn't really matter. What matters is we've done this now. So let's say I'm gonna cut out the rest of it. You can either use the rectangle tool or the ellipse select. It's also very good for round items. And if you have something odd and weird, this is not that bad, but in this case we can use it. I mean, we can use the free select to make some very nice cuts. And cut this up, put it into no. Put it into the gold line, anchor that. So I moved it from this layer to this layer. Perfect. Now, didn't take long. So what we want to do here is we want to make this. We want to make this blue. But because this is a very strong color, the result might be a bit weird. You can see this is light blue. It's actually not that bad. One of the tools you can use is the color desaturate. Then you're gonna drain out all the color in it. So when you add in a new color, it is gonna be a lot more pure, so to speak, than what it was before, and you get usually a better result. That is sexy. And as you can see, I didn't change this down here for demonstration purposes, but it looks kind of ass. Anyway, if I separated all of this, it wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, that is what I would do normally, but I'm just gonna do this for demonstration purposes. So we changed the lid, and I want to make the gold line pop a bit more. I've selected the gold line. I go into hue saturation, and let's try to saturate it a bit more. Whoa. Yeah, fuck, all the way up. That looks badass. That is a very high contrast. We take the text tool, alt, newspaper, crush, roof, box, scale it up. That doesn't look half bad. Yeah, that does look bad. Only a bit more detail. It looks meh. So let's add some shadow on it. I'm gonna change the layer so it goes. Ooh, now it pops. Holy damn. That looks pretty damn good. Because this is text, I am gonna do the easy thing here. I want to manipulate both of them at the same time, so I'm just gonna merge them. And then to make it more detailed, you see, you have this card, let's call it paper texture. I am gonna try using the opacity a Yeah, just turn it down a little bit. Yeah, that works. That definitely works. Now, we need the crown. So, went into free pick. And that's very funny for any of you who speaks Danish. So, I want to use this one. I am going to cut that out. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call that crown. Or caps, of course, because I forgot the caps lock. And I'm going to throw this layer into the crown. Now, this one I can remove. I do not need that. Now, I have the crowd layer selected. And because I could use either of these tools, it doesn't really matter. The fuzzy select is usually the one I use to get the best results. That looks pretty good. Okay, delete. Ooh, party. Select none. Yeah, of course, if you look at it close, ugh, but you're never gonna look at it that close, so no problem. Now we have the same problem as before. This is huge. I do not need huge. Crop to content. Thank you. I'm gonna put it on top of the layer we're gonna use, and I'm gonna. Ooh, can you see it now, boys? Oh, that's cool. And let's scale it up just a little bit. Oh yeah, that's pretty. Scale. Move, and that looks about centered. I mean, we could, if you click here on either of the sides with the ruler here, you can click and drag to get guides. These can be very helpful sometimes. If I wanted to center this completely, well, it seems like I centered it already. But anyway, now I'll put the guide in. Oh shit, okay. Oh, just gonna party. And yeah. Okay, but it's still nah. Okay, gonna do the same with opacity here. Just bring it down a bit, about 80. Yeah, it looks good, but it doesn't pop enough. Let's see if we can do something with the saturation. Ooh shit, that is awesome. That might be a bit too much. So we're gonna do that again. We're just gonna turn it down a little bit. Yeah, that looks cool. Alright, now this is just for demonstration purposes. So yeah, when you layer these, of course you layer every bit of it you want to layer. So you manipulate all of it at once. Instead of doing like this, I've done in one piece at a time. That's too much work. I mean, I would layer this, all the gold separated, all the red separated, all the text if I wanted that, and so on and so forth. And then keep the different layers separated as well. But this is just to demonstrate the difference between them and how you can do things. I mean, you could add whatever you want to make this pop more. You can change basically all of it. This is just to show you some of the techniques that I use and that you can use to make some pretty cool shit. Anyway, I want to see how this looks on the model itself, if it actually is worth something. There's something important to know here. You have all these layers here in this one. Now, once you've layered the model, before you start doing anything, basically, I definitely recommend you go in and you select Save As. This is gonna save this texture itself as an XCF file. So that means if I open up the same XCF file, I'm gonna have all these layers, and I can manipulate all of them. You can see here, this is my Into the Radius 2 project files folder, where I have not all of it, but a lot of it. All of these are basically the vanilla. Let's take the rifle pouch just for fun of it. Yeah, this is the vanilla model, the vanilla texture for the rifle pouch. That is what the big pouch on your back, or where you put it, where you can put on the primary weapons. I have this in here all layered up, ready to go. So if I want to change anything or they update the game and whatnot, I want to make different colors, I can open up this one, do whatever I want, and then just save it. Or actually not save it, I'm gonna show you. You've saved it, you had the XCF file, everything's PG. Now you actually want to see how it looks like. So you're gonna go into File, Export As, and I am gonna put this somewhere I can actually find it. So I'm just gonna call this T-Sig VIP. Save color values from transparent pixels. You're gonna encounter some textures that use the alpha channel. That is a different beast in and of itself, and that's gonna be there are guides written for that, so I'm not gonna cover that. But usually it's a very good idea to save it. In this case, there's no alpha channel, there's no transparency, so that there's no reason to do that. It depends on the type of texture you're working with. So we save that as a PNG. I'm gonna go back into Blender. I'm gonna open this up. There's the file I just saved. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, you see, this is the one I also cut out. If I'd cut out everything before I started recoloring it, everything would have been recolored in like this. But this is just for demonstration purposes. So that's how we do that. You just look at it like this. Yeah, it's not half bad. And once you've done the entire thing and you're ready to export it, well, I have a guide for that, so you just go follow that. I showed you all the steps you actually need to be able to use these programs and to make stuff for yourself. Now I am gonna show you a little trick I recently learned that actually saves me a lot of time. So if you want to make a template, this small square you always delete. I leave it for a good reason, at least for this one. So we made sure the units are centimeters. It is down. Yes, this is gonna be the model that we always use whenever we start a new project. I'm gonna go into shading and see the notes here. I am gonna leave you to take a screenshot of this one if you want, because this is a very good template to have. I mean, this is the mix color. Shift A, you see mix color. Pretty. This one is the color texture. Actually, I'm gonna open up a model so you can see it. So, I recently made these using the template, which is, you can see the template right here. And if I go in, you can see I have all of these connected because we use these, and I'm gonna show you for what now, because that was very confusing to begin with for me. Now let's take the Glock, because that's badass. And I go down into the notes, you can see that is exactly the same as the template, because I just clicked the template, selected all of this, pressed Ctrl+C to copy it. Then I went to the I'm just gonna turn the outline off so you can see what I've selected. Then I went to each of these and just pressed Ctrl+V to paste this one on top of it. Now, what do you do with this? You see we have the Glock selected. I want to do stuff with it. This one up here, that is the base color, which I have connected into the mix color A input. If it's A or B, that doesn't matter at all. They are basic, they're the same. You have two inputs that you put together. You're gonna put this from mix to multiply, otherwise it's gonna look weird. And the result goes into the base color. Now, Unreal Engine uses textures that are called ORM. It stands for Ambient Occlusion, Roughness, and Metallic. They put those three textures into the same texture image file, and then they each have their own primary color to work with. In this case, red is ambient occlusion, which I put on the model here. I mean, it's not always easy to see. I'm just going to turn off the outline because that's pretty distracting. I'm going to put this on, let's see. It does a bit. It's ambient occlusion is mostly light, shadow, stuff like that. It adds details. Moving on, green is the roughness, which you see I've connected. And if I take this off, I'm pretty sure you're gonna see a big difference. Now this is how reflective it is. So put on the roughness map. This is just a perfect blend. Awesome. And blue is metallic, which is basically the same thing. I mean, if let's disconnect these. I want to make this really. Oh, that is very reflective. That's very metallic, very reflective. That looks awful. So I'm just gonna reconnect these. And having them connected like that means you just have to open up the textures you need so you can actually see the final result. Now the one down here is for the normal map. The normal map is the details of the gun. It's easier to just show it then. Now this is the flat texture, nothing. The normal map is not on. You can see how flat and boring it is. Now we add the normal map, details start to pop out, and we can also use the slider to really enhance it a bit. You can see now there's too much detail, but you can see the texture as in the feel and touch texture, not the other one. This is what makes the whole difference from bland and boring to, oh my goodness, that looks great. That's the normal map. And the last one I have down here is for the emissive map. There's some models that have an emissive texture, like the sides will glow or something like that. Then I can put that into this layer here to the emission. So if I had done emissive texture, I'd open this here and then see it. Oh, and another thing, both the normal map and the ORM, they have to be in this one color space. Once you open them up, they are gonna be sRGB, both of them. And as you can see, that looks wrong, but that's because you don't use the colors in these, or the programs don't as such. So you set them to non-color, both of them, and then they work. Of course, the color texture is going to be sRGB, because if you put this to non-color, that's ashy. It's gonna be grayscale. We don't want that. So let's put it back. Party. So that's how you create a template. That's how you use Blender to make some easy, very nice to do stuff. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this, and I've only barely scratched the surface with it. Also with GIMP, for that sake. I mean, I don't know anything about these programs in this. It's amazing how much they can do. But this is just to get you started, and I hope that you're gonna make some cool shit with it, because I'm just a total beginner myself, but I think that some of the stuff I've made is pretty damn cool. I mean, with this segment, I'm gonna show you my 6-beer MCX I made some time ago, and it is awesome. I used a lot of these techniques to make it the way I wanted it, because I didn't think the base textures were good enough. So I changed them a lot to make the gun that I wanted, and also did a lot of other things, but this is to get you started. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope I haven't made too many blunders, and I really hope that you can use it to kickstart your own modding adventure. And I hope to see a lot of stuff on Nexus as a direct result from this video. That would be badass. Thank you for watching. This has been a long one, but I hope you'll benefit from it. Stay awesome and make some awesome mods. See you, dudes.